The New York Jets lose to the Indianapolis Colts 28-27 in a last-second collapse. The Colts score with less than 2 minutes to go. They take the late lead. The Jets are unable to get anything going with less than a minute to go as Rodgers is sacked. Final time expires, and the Jets fall to now 3-8 on the season. I'm Ryan Sampson. He's Frankie Vittorini. This is the Gang's All Here post-game live show. We appreciate all the fans joining in right now. They're going to be watching and listening to us break down and react to what we saw today. Before I get to anything about this game, as always, Frankie, how you doing, man?
Ryan. I am not in shock. I'm not. I am not surprised at what happened. I didn't know that Indy was going to score in that 2-minute drill, but we all kind of know the reality of this team. They'll find any way to lose football games. Another Sunday in the books, another disastrous performance by the Jets. And I'm getting tired of having the same conversations with this team. I think I was a little bit blinded with optimism the last couple of weeks. The last month, maybe I've been blinded with optimism since Rodgers came here. At this point, you've been more right than I have. You know, I don't like saying that, but I'm being real. You've been more right. A lot of people have said this was never going to work as of a month or so ago, and it's not going to work. And this year's done. It's officially over. RIP. We are like we were a few weeks ago, but it's just rock bottom again, and it's time to just rebuild and tear it all down. It's start from scratch. No other way about it. I'm not going to convince you any other way or anybody in the chat or wherever. Go ahead. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I said the season was over after the Patriots loss. This was very similar, eerily similar in the fact that the Jets let the Colts drive all the way down the field late in the fourth quarter after taking a lead. The Jets were up 27-22 at that point. And the Colts get the ball with, what was it, a minute 55 left in the game, or 2:41 left in the game. The big play, and I had messaged you after this happened, was the 2nd and 6. Richardson decides to double pump fake. He throws the pump fake, deep ball to Alec Pierce. Sauce, again, had a brutal game today, and it looked like he yelled at the safety that, the safety should have been over and helping him in coverage. He doesn't get over there in time. Pierce goes for 39 yards, and then you knew at that point that was it. The Jets were going to let them go down the field and score a touchdown. It's the same exact thing what happened to the Patriots when they gave up that Sauce gave up that big 3rd down completion to the Jacoby Brissett. This same exact thing happens here. Now it's 2nd down and 6. You give a 39-yard completion. This Jets team, again, the same themes we've said all season long: undisciplined. They came out flat again to start the game, and ultimately, old man Rodgers got bailed out by in a really, really good game from Breece Hall today. And I don't think that needs to be I don't want that to be taken away. Like, Breece was really, really good today. Rodgers was not. Rodgers was he's below average today. I don't care what the stat line was today. He's a part of the reason why this Jets team didn't win this game today. The Jets defense, once again, could not come up big when it needed to. And Frankie, we're now staring down the barrel of another lost season, 3-8, last place in the AFC, tied with the Patriots, but who are 3-8 as well. Yeah, man.
Let me just say this. Do you want me to get into the offense, or do you want me to get into the defense? Where are we going to start? Do you want to start with the defense?
The defense is probably the bigger concern here, because, again, this was a unit, and this is how I'm going to set up for you, Frankie. This was a unit that was praised for the last 2 years under Ulbrich and Salah. After Woody Johnson fired Robert Salah, this Jets defense has been abysmal. And it really is concerning that I think Ulbrich is in over his head, clearly, and it's affecting how this defense is playing. And we're seeing a lot of regression from big-name players like Sauce Gardner, and DJ Reed's having a down year. Quinnen Williams is up and down. Javon Kinlaw had a couple nice plays, but he's really not been good. Michael Clemens, oh my God, that is horrible. Will McDonald has not had a good week. Hasn't had a couple good weeks. So, Frankie, the defense for you, what did you see today in the fact that, again, they came up short?
Listen, man, at the end of the day, we could point at this player. We could point at that player. I can bring up the fact that Hassan Reddick has disappeared the last couple of weeks, right? Where was he today? I know he was dealing with something, but he had, a tackle today? It comes down to this. Anthony Richardson had his best game as an NFL quarterback versus us in our house. Most yards he's ever passed for. He has redefined himself to a degree. I mean, if you want to redefine your career as an offensive player, play against the Jets, preferably even at MetLife. That'll give you as much motivation. That'll give you as much confidence as you need. The defense is soft. The scheme is stale. We have players that think that they're better than what they actually are. Regression's hitting everybody. There is no leadership. And at this point, man, this defense needs to start playing some of these young guys. When Eccles is ready, he has to start playing. We got to start seeing what we have. Because as you know, and as most people now are starting to realize, there's going to be a teardown from start to finish, from top to bottom of this entire team. And I want to see who is really able to be on this roster next year, because the way this defense has been playing, I don't want any of these guys back. If you're going to tell me you can get picks for Sauce, I'm with that. If you're going to tell me that you can get something for Quinn, and even though he played pretty well today, I'm with that. I'm not in love with any of these guys. And forget about the offense. We could talk about that later. But this defense, I mean, listen, this is another point that not enough people are making, and this isn't really an excuse, but just the reality. Jeff Ulbrich going from DC to head coach and then not spending as much time on the defense per se because he's doing general team activities has been costing this defense. They're unprepared. Yes, they didn't commit many penalties today, but they're not making enough plays. We got a turnover today, but we have had, 3 all year. It's under Ulbrich, I'm saying. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. The Jets finally got a turnover today, huh?
Yeah. 2 interceptions we have all season. 2. What? I don't know what's going on. I think these players feel like they're a step behind. They're trying to overcompensate, but the entire structure of this defense is just flawed. We hit our peak last year, or maybe you want to say 2 years ago, and it was sort of trending down. Now we're just an average to below average defense. The offense is below average, and we got the 2024 New York Jets at 3-8. Playoffs are basically mathematically out. And it is what it is. Well, I'm saying that, they're going to put there's a 0.8% chance. Yeah. I'm saying I'm not going to, when you say mathematically, it's got to be 100%.
I understand, but they're not making the playoffs.
No, absolutely not.
That was dead after the Patriots game that people need to realize. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. Listen, this Jets team, frustrating as it is to watch for Jets fans this year, without a doubt, we can get into this in a little bit, but the defense has been the most disappointing part of this team, considering, again, it was supposed to be your strength this year. I feel for Jets fans, and I want to thank again everyone in the chat right now. Appreciate it. I'm seeing all your messages. You guys keep sending them, asking questions. What you guys' reactions? We want to see it. This is without a doubt one of the worst coaching staffs in the NFL. I agree with you, XC. They have assembled a coaching staff that is stubborn to a fault. They're going to run the same defense. They run the same defensive scheme every single day, every single game, and they run the same set of plays defensively. They're stubborn to a fault that way. And you saw the Colts make some adjustments, in my opinion, Frankie, in the second half, getting Richardson on the move and having him be able to make some really easy throws. Downs was used in the slot a lot. They used double moves because they knew that Sauce was going to have eyes in the backfield because Sauce was trying to be, very aggressive as a corner. And I think that the Colts showed that they could make way more adjustments at halftime and figure it
100%.
out. And that's something that the Jets just don't have from a coaching staff standpoint. I've tried to tell you, and I've tried to tell a lot of people on this show, the Jets coaching staff think that they can just out-talent you. They think that they're going to put their guys in a position to play and make plays out there and just play in space, play aggressive, play fast. It's a very simple scheme in what they do, both offensively and defensively. They're trying to not out-scheme you. They're trying to just make sure that they can get guys in good positions to make plays and use their athletic abilities. I think that's been a serious miscalculation by this Jets coaching staff, thinking that they have a talented enough roster to do that. This team needs desperately leadership from the top down, from coaches and from better players. And I think the quarterback isn't helping in this situation either. But ultimately, Frankie, we're just seeing a very poor coaching staff with a team that's just not as talented as we thought it was. And this is continuously why they're going to keep losing these games, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's the worst coach team I've ever seen in my life. And that goes for any sport. You want to take basketball, you want to take baseball, you want to take, I mean, I've never rooted for a team that has been this badly coached. You see it too with the offensive game planning. It's the same script every damn week. The same exact thing. Yeah, there were a few nuances this week. I thought they did a few things differently with Brees specifically. I liked some of the stuff they were doing with him, finally getting him the ball outside of the tackle box where he can shine a bit more. But on the passing side, man, Rodgers is running the same old crap, the same old target your receiver through a slant or an in. If you're going to throw it deep, it's premeditated, or you're going to dump it off to Brees, which today he took for 6, but still, it's the same exact thing. Then they want to be cute. They want to be cool. They want to Andy Reid it, try to put Conklin in motion under center and do a QB sneak or a tight end sneak. We're not the team to do that. We can barely figure out how to get a 3rd and 5 play together. You're going to try to do something that cute and fancy when you have Braylon Allen back there, Brees, you can target Garrett, who, by the way, did nothing today. Garrett had 4 catches for 18 yards. Terrible. I mean, it's not like you're playing world beaters defensively there. And again, man, we're never going to learn with Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, as to what we're just not going to learn what we need to do offensively. With him there, he's going to dictate everything. It's his way or it's the highway. That's why he left Green Bay. Not to reiterate stuff we've spoken about before, but this is what we're getting. It's an antiquated system. It's a stubborn quarterback. It's an inexperienced bad OC. It's an inexperienced head coach. And this is what you're going to get. And at this point, I'm checked out. I know our post games, we're still going to do them, obviously, but like we have to figure out more on a roster level what we think about these players and if we see them as being options for us in the future. Because if they're not going to return these players or run it back, there's a lot of change to be had, and it might be another year, 2, 3, 4 years. Just FYI.
Yeah, so I think you're going to see. And this is something that the theme's going to come out from this game, specifically the Sauce Gardner play. Again, I cannot emphasize that enough. Him finger pointing to the safety is a bad look. Like, you as a corner, an all-pro corner, should be responsible and talk to not finger point in that critical situation. It's time to lift each other up. You're still in this game. There's still a chance to make a play. That was disappointing again to see. And Sauce had a very bad game again today. He got burned by downs on the drag route. He missed another tackle on that opportunity again. He's just not been a good cornerback for this team. And I know Kaz has been defending him because he's a young guy. He's learning the New York media is very aggressive and they're going to jump on you. The fans are going to be aggressive towards you. You got to have thicker skin and you got to be able to be composed on the field. And again, this all comes down to the leadership on this team, Frankie. And it's been the theme of this season. There's some other things that are coming out from this game. The Jets are now 1-5 since they fired Robert Salah. That move has not worked at all for Woody Johnson's choice to fire Salah. It's been a terrible decision. Should have done it in the offseason like we talked about, but that is long and gone, that discussion. But we can discuss what the repercussions of that decision was to fire Salah midseason. You basically ripped out the guts of this team, the leader. While people may not have liked Robert Salah and they didn't like what his team was, how his teams were starting games and how many penalties they had, at the end of the day, he was the head honcho and he was calling all the shots. You got rid of him and you've put a guy in an impossible situation in Jeff Ulbrich, who probably was not prepared to be the head coach of this team. And you've taken him away from focusing on defensive things like helping a Sauce Gardner, like helping Quincy Williams and Jamie Sherwood on how to stop the run when CJ Mosley goes down earlier this year. How to get Jeff Ulbrich's mind on this defensive line and say, what can we do to fix this? What can we do to get more guys and better opportunities to make plays? the repercussions from that decision from Robert Saleh have been tremendously impactful. And there's other things too when you want to flip it to the offensive side of the ball for Rodgers. I alluded to you, Frankie, beginning this post-game live show. Rodgers was bad again today. He's 0 for 4 now on game-winning drives in the fourth quarter this season.
Wow.
So think about that.
He's never done that before, I'll guarantee you that.
Right. So think about what this season is. You're 1-5 since firing Salah. You're 0 for 4 on game-winning drives in the fourth quarter with Rodgers. This is a season that none of us expected. And you're seeing the guys that you had counted on are not coming through for you. And that's what's been ultimately even more disappointing in this entire crap hole of a season.
Well, to play off something you were saying, and you were 100% right. If you were going to fire Robert Saleh, and you did, you need a plan in place. You need a structure. You should go in and talk with Ulbrich, talk with Aaron, talk with Jody, even talk with the guy you're going to fire and say, hey, things aren't working out. We're going to give you a few more weeks. Can we put something in place here? I mean, like, that's not an impossible thing to do. Great owners do that. Real good ownership groups have those honest conversations, because when you took Salah out of here and you told Ulbrich overnight, hey, man, forget about calling, the defense, even though he still is, but you're going to be the head coach now. So you have to do both. Good luck. That's what happened. Good luck here. You throw him in. Good luck. We're void of leaders. So there aren't any leaders that are going to be able to really make up for the lack of leadership coming from the head coach, because you just threw somebody in there.
Well,
and
Frankie,
this is what you get. It's just a complete mess.
Well, it is a complete mess. So think about, again, the end of the game situation here. Ulbrich, when the Jets are driving down the field, they get to a 4th and 2 scenario and they take their last timeout and burn it. They burned it because they were trying to get the Colts off sides because it was 4th and 2. It's 2:44 left in the game. You're 3-7. And a good head coach would have said, no, we're not going to try and draw him off sides and burn my last timeout, because I'm still going to give him, even if I score this field goal here at 2:44, I still don't know if the Colts can go down the field and score a touchdown here. I'd like to keep one of those timeouts for Rodgers if we need a last-second drive. You know what I mean? And that's just the critical thinking that's missing from this team.
And listen, they're trying to be cute. They're trying to run things like they know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. Make it as vanilla as possible. Don't get cute at all. Literally, they're trying to like what you're saying. They're trying to have teams jump off sides. They're trying to put Conklin in for tight end sneaks. Like, what do you think? Who are you fooling here? You can barely get a first down. We almost went the whole half without a first down. That would have been the first time since 2005 a team hadn't had a first down. The Patriots in 2005. I mean, like, that's an Aaron Rodgers-led offense. That's a Breece Hall-led backfield. That's a Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams wide receiving core. That can't get a first down. When you know you have to win again, you come out that flat. Then what happens? We know we're better than them. We know we're more talented than them. They get a little bit nervous. They have a young quarterback. Things start going our way. But like it always happens, the script runs itself. The joke keeps getting more sinister, right? We blow it again. There was at a point I'm thinking we're going to win this game, but I'm like, no, we're not going to win this game.
No.
Because we can't win really any game.
No,
especially a close game.
They can't win in close game. Yeah. 0 for 4 again for game-winning drives. And Peter, you're right. Jets did burn their final timeout on the Colts last drive. But the fact of the remains is you had 2 timeouts in that situation on 4th and 2. If you took that timeout and said, we're going to come out and actually go for it and be aggressive, I actually would have been okay with that decision, because you're being aggressive. Instead, you settle for the field goal and you try to put the pin your ears on your defense and try and make a play when you haven't really had a good like they were good and bad versus Richardson. You know what I mean, Frankie? But at the end of the day, you look at the stat line, Richardson had his best game of the season. So
best game of his career by far. I think his previous high was his passing yards was 230 and change his first game in the NFL. And today he had 272 or whatever he had. That's the most he's had by far. I mean, like he hasn't been able to put together anything through the air. He looked like a pretty good quarterback today.
Yeah, I mean, he started off slow and he had some bad throws and misses, but once he got in a rhythm again, that second half, the Colts were able to adjust and put some good drives together, and you just keep saying, and Frankie, you put it perfectly. You go, they just can't make anything easy, this team. They really can't, because after the Jets score a touchdown in the start of the third quarter, the Colts go all the way down the field and they score that field goal to go up 16-14, and you just took all that momentum back away. You know what I mean? Like, you're up 14-13 at that point, and you're like, all right, we just got the lead. But instead, the Colts go on 11 plays and they score a field goal to retake the lead 16-14. It's a momentum sucker, because this team can't get out of its own way. It's one step forward, two steps back. It's been the theme all freaking season with this franchise.
Do you know how alarming it is that you can't stop a passing offense with Anthony Richardson at the helm, Josh Downs, who's a very good wide receiver? We were talking about that before the game. I love Josh Downs. But let's not make it seem like Josh Downs is some, Amon-Ra St. Brown receiver. He's not. Alec Pierce, who's good, but again, wide receiver 3s and 4s we're talking about, and a banged up Michael Pittman, who just came back. I mean, like, what? How can you not stop? If you can't stop that, you can't stop anyone.
No.
I was telling you, and I don't know if you understood what I was saying during the game, but I'm like, right, we haven't really played a prolific passing offense this year. And if we had, let's say, a team that wasn't hurt like the Texans, we would have, but they were hurt. Obviously, the receivers were out there too. So we haven't even played anything close to a top-tier passing offense. Imagine if we did. We would get lit up. We got lit up today. We did. Anthony Richardson lit up the New York Jets secondary. And I never thought I would ever have said that, ever. The Jets a few years ago, or last year, they had, 20 games. They hadn't given up 300 yards to a passer until Flacco. Shocker. That's just the joke is just right. It just writes itself. But this year, the defense has completely fallen back to reality, maybe. I mean, like, when you're top 2 or 3, PFF had us as the best defense last year. The year before, I think we were third. Your regression's going to hit. You're not always going to be at the top. But this defense now is like in like the, late teens, early 20s. And I don't know, man. There was a point where I would say the defense is something you could depend on. You could, work a game plan that is, control the clock, because your defense is going to always bail you out and not break. We're always at bend, but don't break. I thought we would force some more turnovers this year. It's not the case. And you can't depend on the defense, and you definitely can't depend on the offense or the quarterback or the offensive coordinator or anything, actually. There's really nothing you could depend on this team moving forward. So at this point, we have to get lucky. I'm not going to bring up the offseason, but we got to hire a lot of different things this offseason. GM, head coach, OC. Maybe we got to hire some new scouts. We actually should hire some new scouts, new coaching staffs, positional coaches.
I mean, yeah, Frankie, you're tearing it all down, but that's all questions we can do during the bye week. I would say I still want to react again to this. Has been the theme again, another game of evidence of just how inept and how bad and how overmatched and overlooked, like everything that Salah and Woody and Joe thought, and Rodgers, I think even to this extent, all thought that they were putting this team together to be a Super Bowl contender, and they could not have been any more wrong.
Yeah.
And that is what I think a lot of us need to start realizing, is that those people we thought that were making this decisions to put all this in and go all in this year, it's been an utter disaster. This is worse than, I would say, the Brooklyn Nets with Kevin Durant. Even when they went back and got Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden, it's worse than when they did it feels more like when they did the Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce. Like, that's what this feels like. You're getting old. You got older this year. You brought in a lot of veterans. You brought in guys as like mercenaries. And ultimately, it's just a team that you don't like rooting for. And guys just aren't playing for each other. They're playing for themselves out there.
Remember the super team Eagles?
Yeah.
They even went 8-8. This team ain't going 8-8.
No way. No chance.
So this might be one. Yeah, this is, maybe the Nets experiment with KD, but at least they made the playoffs. They had it was an inch away from advancing in that series. So, like, you saw something there. We're going to get out of this Rodgers experiment experience. It's an experience, actually, that we might not even sniff the playoffs with Aaron. I mean, he might be out of here.
No. He's
And you watch.
I honestly, Frankie, after today, I'm done. I can't stand watching him play football for the Jets anymore. I don't think he cares anymore. And to be frank,
I don't think he does either.
Yeah, his attitude on the field, the first half reflected everything I need to know about Aaron Rodgers. So when you hear Jeff Ulbrich right now talking about true strength is demonstrated in these moments when adversity really hits, buddy, you're 3-8. You've gone 1-5 since you fired Salah. These quotes are ridiculous. Adversity's been with this team all freaking season. All freaking season, they've been hitting adversity this year. And I think, number one, the quarterback is responsible for the energy that this team plays with, especially on offense. Everyone looks at you as the leader, as the Hall of Fame quarterback. And if you can't go on the field and throw for a first down on the first 3 series, and you have a mopey attitude on the sideline, that's going to reflect poorly on everyone else on that offensive staff and personnel that are trying to put something together here. I'm sick and tired of watching Aaron Rodgers go out there, have a terrible first half, and just be like, yeah, whatever. And he's going to come out post game right now. And he's going to be like, yeah, it's adversity, humble pie, all that crap that he wants to serve to us as fans. It's falling on deaf ears, dude.
Ryan, he had 4 passing yards with like 5 minutes left in the first half. 4 passing yards. You have Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams, Breece Hall. You have 4 passing yards? What are you doing all week? I don't think, and this is my opinion, I don't think Rodgers puts in a lot of time during the week. I think this is a vacation. This is a cruise for him. This is a retirement spot for him. This was an easy spot for him.
So, Frankie, Kevin O'Reilly,
because it was easy.
Right. Kevin O'Reilly writes, Rodgers should not play anymore for financial reasons. No sense in risking injury and being on the hook for any more money than the minimum. He makes a great point. That's what the Giants are going to do with Daniel Jones. They're going to bench his ass the rest of the season because they don't want to pay him next year.
Yeah,
an option on the Rodgers contract next year for $35 million. They have to make sure that they are not financially responsible for that next year.
Yeah, the thing is, though, there's two sides to this conversation. You play Rodgers, you see what you have, or you just lose out because he's playing so bad, versus putting in Tyrod Taylor, and maybe he starts sparking things up a little bit, and then you might win a few more games than you want. I don't really see any advantage of playing Tyrod Taylor. At least with Rodgers, you have 2 things going. He's going to fall off a cliff, or he fell off a cliff.
He fell off a cliff. I think he's done.
Okay. You probably are right. He fell off a cliff. You go and you finish with 4 wins. You go 4-13, and you have the 4th pick in the draft, and you might be able to get one of these quarterbacks. Or he plays well, starts showing that he's got something that you could make a decision on him. And then maybe, I'm not saying this is the case, I don't want to scare you, Rye. Maybe the run it back scenario isn't that crazy, but you have to see it over the last 7 games or 6 games.
No, how does Woody Johnson look at this, or Christopher Johnson for that matter, watch this crap on the field and go, yeah, we're going to pick up the $35 million option for a 43-year-old quarterback that looks slow and old and can't read a defense, and he's just holding the ball too long, and he can't escape from pressure if it's in his face, and he can't get the ball to our number 1 wide receiver in Garrett Wilson. He forces it to Devontae Adams. He refuses to throw it over 15 yards down the field. He won't throw it to our number 1 running back in Breece Hall. Any other things you want me to lay out there, Frankie, for the reasons why you should not be going back to Aaron Rodgers next year?
But listen, you
the
make
evidence
it seem like this
is there.
Never happened here. What about? Do you remember Sam Darnold? One year, I forget what year it was. His last 4 games, he was number 1 in the NFL in QBR. I remembered he was top of the list of QBR. We were out of the playoffs anyway, but he showed that he had something that gave them more confidence to bring him back again. I don't know if they exercised an option. I don't really remember, but I remember that last 4-game stretch.
Hang on.
That gave everyone confidence in Sam the next year. I'm saying there's a lot of football, unfortunately, still to be played.
Right, but I
wish the season ended today, by the way.
But you have 7 games left, right?
6.
6 games left. I'm letting Tyrod Taylor and then Jordan Travis play the rest of the season. I'm sorry. That's the truth.
Jordan Travis, when? I mean, is he even going to be cleared?
Maybe the last 2 games. It could be the last game of the season. I'm not talking about right now. I'm saying I'm letting Tyrod Taylor start out of the bye week because Aaron is cooked. This is what people need to understand. And Rodgers will be the last one to freaking admit this. This is a very prideful person. This is a guy who's stubborn to a point where he thinks he's the greatest to ever live. And yes, he might have been the greatest to ever spin a football, but right now, this ain't Aaron Rodgers. Like, this is not Aaron Rodgers.
No, it's not even close.
So if you're thinking about this as a franchise, you effed up royally putting this thing together, and it has gone laughably wrong. And now, hilariously, in this situation, it's time to turn the page, say, Aaron, thank you for what you did for a year and a half for us. This clearly experiment did not work for us. We need to move on, and we need to figure out what we have on this roster, because I'm telling you, if Tyrod goes out there and they do spark as an offense, then I can actually say we're actually a real quarterback away, because the real quarterback that we thought was Aaron Rodgers wasn't a real quarterback.
Fair point. Good point. That's a very good point. You've enlightened me a bit with that point, but I'm going to say it again. You're also assuming that there's no way that Rodgers is going to be back here next year, because once you go the Tyrod route with a quote unquote healthy Rodgers, although I don't think he's healthy, but healthy enough to play, then you're really telling him, and you're telling us, and you're telling everyone there that the Rodgers thing's over. So I'm just saying, by making that Tyrod decision, you're basically telling Aaron, thank you for your services, bro. We're done. Frankie, and I'm not against that, but I'm saying there are not repercussions, but there's
for a 43-year-old quarterback
to make. There's a lot of other things going on.
Yeah,
that your decision to just start Tyrod.
I am choosing not to pay that quarterback $35 million next year. That's in a ridiculous cap, and I'm going to cut the other $35 million going to his number one wide receiver in Davante Adams next year. That's $70 million I could play with in the offseason. Are you kidding me? Yes, I am absolutely making that decision, because it actually will make a GM want to take this job. If I end up with a top 10 pick, and I know that I have offensive pieces and Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson to actually build around, a solid left tackle, you have somewhat an offensive line resemblance. Like, I thought the offensive line was okay today. It wasn't terrible by any means. Like, they played better than they did in the previous week when Tyron Smith starting. Like, Olu looked okay. Like,
yeah, he was.
There
was
were
okay.
some pressures, but
wasn't
still.
Great.
But still, it was better than what Tyron was giving you. I'm just telling you right now, if you make that decision after the bye week, I would be fully in support of that, because I am not seeing a quarterback that is going to take you to the promised land. He is playing in an antiquated offense. He's changing plays at the line of scrimmage. He's stubborn to a fault, throwing and forcing the ball to Davante Adams instead of Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. Those are the things that we wanted before the season.
Yeah.
The reason Rodgers was supposed to come here he was supposed to bring the ball to Garrett and Breece. He's supposed to force feed it to them, because he said those guys are two offensive rookie of the year candidates when he first talked about it in the offseason when he was going to come to the Jets. That is what we needed. And they got away from that again.
Do you know how I know Aaron's playing badly? There was a stat they brought up, and it was so indicative of Aaron's decline. The stat was that no team has thrown the ball in the red zone more than the Jets this year. I think we've thrown it, I think they said 72 times. We have one of the worst red zone offenses in football. So we can't score in the red zone, but our quarterback decides that he wants to throw the ball in the red zone often, and he doesn't have it anymore. So if there's any indication that Rodgers has fell off a cliff outside of just watching him play, it's that stat. And another thing about Aaron that has surprised me, just as a football fan, someone that loves to like scout things, and sometimes I think I'm an analyst. I don't know what the hell I am. But something I've noticed, he's not that good in the pocket. He's not. And when you look at Tom Brady, and the other night I was watching Peyton Manning, old Peyton Manning, not young Peyton Manning. I was watching washed up, throwing ducks Manning. They knew how to buy just enough time within the pocket and find open receivers.
Yeah, that's not Rodgers' game, man. It's not his game. Yeah.
Did you see Rodgers today when he did find Gibson on the sideline? He went out of the pocket.
3rd and 14. It was a great play, but that was old school Rodgers.
But he had to move out of the pocket.
Right. That's what Rodgers does his whole career.
Yeah. But I thought that he could transform his game into an old man quarterback style, that he could just play from within the pocket, at least at an above average level. Right. When you get older, you can't move. Right. That's the thing. Like Lamar Jackson, when he's 38 years old, I'm sure is going to struggle to do what Lamar Jackson does.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. So Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson's going through that a little bit now too. As they get older, the guys that like to go off script and use their legs, they can't use them anymore. Father Time is undefeated, right? I thought Rodgers was a better pocket passer, purely pocket, and he's really not. It's all predetermined. It's all quick, too quick or too late. He's now scared to move in the pocket because he's scared to get hit, and he can't buy time anymore because his legs aren't allowing him to. And that's what we're seeing. He had a bad game today, and the stats don't even do it that much justice. I've seen some games this year from him that his stats were worse than today, but today looked worse than a lot of games.
He was lifeless,
he looked
dude.
out of
he was
today.
lifeless.
Yeah, he was.
Lifeless.
That was it.
No energy. Rodgers is talking post game right now. He was asked about how he plans to keep motivation for the remainder of the season. He said, "I've figured out a way to do this for a long time, so you've just got to remember why you fell in love with the game." This sounds like a guy who's absolutely checked out. Aaron Rodgers on if he wanted to go for a fourth down in the fourth quarter rather than kicking a field goal. Yeah, but I mean, Brick felt good about it. But yeah, of course, I feel like we needed to go get to 30. It was if we were a great team, we would have scored this 7 there. So he's admitting they're not a great team. He's admitting this is not a good football team. And I got to talk to some of the chat here a little bit.
Our chat's going off. By the way, shout out to the chat, gang.
Shout out to the chat. Appreciate all the comments. We're seeing them, guys. Abito, with all due respect, you're saying AR is done, is remarkably lazy, seemingly anger-fueled take. Buddy, watch the film. Go watch the film tonight or tomorrow when it comes out. I'm telling you, there are guys running open that Rodgers is just not throwing the ball to. And to Frankie's point, when there is pressure in his face, he can't get away from it. That's not what you need in today's modern NFL. These guys are faster than ever as defensive ends and defensive tackles. Josh Sweat will run down Lamar Jackson if he needs to, and he's like 385 pounds. Rodgers ain't running away from these guys.
You know a bad play Rodgers had? Remember when he got barely hit on his back left heel, and he was throwing that Garrett in, and he threw it behind Garrett?
Yeah.
He fell down.
Yeah.
That was like a feather hitting the guy, and he just fell like a sack of bricks and tried to pinpoint Garrett, and it was not accurate because you're freaking falling, free fall speed. That's what you're getting. He's scared in the pocket, and he's not stepping up. And honestly, he's not looking good at all. Today was the most alarmed I've been with Aaron. And I'm saying that because his arm does not look like it's accurate anymore. Aaron's always been deadly accurate. Like you saw Anthony Richardson today have a few throws, pinpoints that just got there. That throw to Pierce on that deep drag, that was a great throw. Aaron lived doing that stuff. You would see Aaron do that stuff 6-7 times a game. Not like Anthony Richardson does it once every couple games. Aaron can't do that anymore. No. Aaron is inaccurate. That's where that's where my concern's coming from, is the fact that a guy who's lived his whole career being one of the most accurate quarterbacks in NFL history, Aaron Rodgers is one of the most accurate quarterbacks in NFL history. He doesn't turn the ball over, never throws interceptions, high completion percentage, super accurate. He doesn't look accurate anymore. Now, why? That's debatable. His arms probably regressed, and he's scared in the pocket, so he's getting it out sooner than he wants to.
I don't think
However, that's not going to change.
Scared is aggressive to say for Rodgers in the pocket. I would say he's timid because he doesn't have the athleticism that he needs, right? That you would just talk about. Like he knows that's not part of his game anymore.
Yeah.
So I think that's hard for him to admit, like when he sees this. But again, I got to go back to Abito here. Like, listen, man, I am not saying Rodgers and this Jets team or the Jets were a quarterback away from being a playoff team, but the facts are the facts. He's 0 for 4 in game-winning drive situations this year. That's Aaron Rodgers. And that's him blaming Mike Williams for not being on the red line. He's thrown multiple game-ending interceptions because he's had miscommunications with the wide receivers that don't work out well with him. They have catered everything they could to make this work with him, right, Frankie? And now it's gotten to the point where there's no more excuses for Rodgers.
I was trying to find the screenshot I had. I took a screenshot from ESPN. I don't know why it didn't save. When Rodgers had 4 yards passing with about 5 minutes and change into the second quarter, or with 5 and change left in the second quarter, that is not Aaron Rodgers. There is no way you could slice that. That's not Aaron Rodgers. That's Tim Boyle. That's Tommy Cutlets. That's, Brooks Bollinger. That's who that is. That you could see that from those guys. 4 yards passing. He almost finished. I was ready to put up a tweet from U Stadium that Aaron had 4 yards passing in the first half. That last drive saved it.
Dude,
but still, that's inexcusable when you have Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams on a team. And Tyler Conklin. Why don't you target Conklin a little bit more across the middle? I'm sure he's open.
It's his refusal, man. He refuses to throw in the middle of the field. He will not attack the middle of the field.
It's crazy, right?
And you see what happens
unless
when
it's predetermined to a wide receiver.
Unless it's predetermined, but look what happens when you do attack the middle of the field. A broken play to Breece Hall goes off for a 33-yard touchdown, first score of the game. Like that's something that's missing from this offense, and that's something that's missing from Rodgers there. Frankie,
you look at the long today too, like another game where Rodgers doesn't have a play go over 30 yards.
You, dude, the 33-yard touchdown to Breece Hall was a yards after catch. It was a check.
His long Breece, that was 29.
Oh, I thought it was 33.
But Devontae's long was 24. I mean, but the
air yards. It was like a 7 yard air yard.
Yeah, the air yards were super low. I mean, this is as low as you're going to get for the guy's career. I mean,
just doesn't throw the ball downfield again. And what is something that's been a constant theme in the NFL this year? If you've paid attention to Get Up and NFL Live and even on NFL Network, what has every analyst said about the way defenses are playing offenses this year? It's too high safety.
Yeah.
Everyone's playing back and saying, you're not going to beat us with the pass. You have to be able to run the ball against us. And guess what? The Jets just don't freaking run the ball. They don't. And they finally did a little bit today with Breece. Gave him 16 carries for 78 yards. He was averaging 4.9 a carry. But the Jets just don't do it well enough. The fact that Braylon Allen had 2 carries today and Tyler Conklin got that 4th down carry is a joke when you think about what this offense has not been able to do. So, Frankie, we've established the defense is devoid of talent, and they just can't play in the big moments, and they don't know how to create turnovers. Now we've dissected the offense, and that the Rodgers aspect is completely void, and you're not getting any kind of Aaron Rodgers Hall of Fame play from him, and he's just not getting the ball to Breece and Garrett as much as he should. So that's the offense and defensive part of this.
Special teams is great now, though.
Special teams. Hey, listen, we might have found a kicker. We might have found a kicker, but I do have to ask you now, as we move forward here, because we do have to spin it a little bit. The coaching is bad. We know this. The Jets are going to blow this whole thing up. You and your company, U Stadium, reported from sources that Joe Douglas is on his way out. He is done. He knows this is it for him. Once they decided to fire Robert Salah without his input, he knew the writing was on the wall. We heard him talk a couple weeks ago. It was the lowest I've ever seen him talking to the media in his mood and mentality. So, Frankie, where do the Jets go from here?
Yeah, so like you said, and like we reported at U Stadium, Joe Douglas and the Jets will depart ways after the season. After the season. Joe Douglas's contract's up. It's not a firing. It's just they're not renewing him, so he'll be a free agent. He's looking at homes apparently in Baltimore. I don't really take that too seriously, but there's a bunch of other things going on. Nick, if he comes on one day, he could break that down from U Stadium a bit more. He's got some ins with the Jets and just general NFL. What they're going to do is they're going to go back and do what they did before they hired Joe Douglas. They're going to bring in probably a consulting group like Woody Johnson likes to do. They're going to go to 50 candidates. Then they're going to bring it down to 10. Then they'll bring it down to their top 4. They'll interview them. And I'm thinking they'll bring in a GM before they bring in a head coach. Now, you have to be careful there. Why? Because if you wait too long to go through your head coaching interviews, you're going to miss out on some head coaches because you're spending a lot of time trying to figure out the GM situation. So what's priority number 1 for the Jets right now is hire the GM as fast as you freaking can, because that'll settle everything else out. You have to get the GM in first, and then you could bring in the coach after. But that is why I was a little bit taken aback and not completely on board with the parting with Joe D, is because of this reason. I don't trust Woody Johnson and that ownership group.
How could you?
Yeah, to hire a good head coach. I don't trust them to bring in a good offensive coordinator, and I don't trust that process to get us a good quarterback. You want to get lucky with the coach and the OC, or the coach and the quarterback, or however you want to slice it. You also now want to depend on those people to bring in a good GM. And again, I'll state this. I think Joe D's a good GM. Do I think he's great? No. Do I think he's bad? No. I think he's good. The time has not worked in his favor. His record now 30-64 speaks for itself. I know that it makes all the sense to move on from Joe D, and I'm not completely against that, but I'm just saying if they want to go down this path, it's really dark. You're as I was saying, we're at rock bottom. You're getting up. You got debris all over you. You don't know where you are. You're walking down a dark path. I don't know if they're ready to do it. I hope Woody can bring in or get lucky. Again, we got to get lucky with a consulting group. Hopefully Peyton Manning's not involved in any of that. We have to get lucky with that process to have all the bricks fall in place. I will say, if you get the GM right, then you can get the head coach right, who can then get the staff right, who can then figure out the OC, and then maybe they can figure out how to draft a competent quarterback. So I do think if you're going to fire one thing or get rid of one thing and start all over again, it's the GM. But I don't trust them to find a better GM than Joe D. I know his time's up, but I think they should have settled this Joe D thing months ago. And now, after the ownership group forced his hand, or Woody forced his hand with Reddick, forced his hand with Devontae Adams, Joe D's like, peace out. You're not letting me run the show anymore. You want to do the show? Great. No problems. And like he said in his interview, I bend down to all-knowing Woody. You do everything you want. Master Woody, go ahead. Do whatever you want. And I'm going to just finish out the year and I'm out. And that's what's going on. And that's what's going to happen. And I have nothing else. I don't have anything positive to say there. I just know you want rock bottom and you want to start all over again and rebuild. This probably is the right way, but I hate getting rid of someone who I thought was a good executive.
Yep. I hear you, Frankie. I agree with you to an extent with Joe D and evaluating talent. There's still a lot of blemishes on the record is the record. The quarterback and the coach he missed on. He's been great at trades. He's been incredible at trades, which is crazy. But at the end of the day, he put together a roster that just wasn't as good as we thought it was, especially him taking away the defensive line talent that that was no excuse this year.
It wasn't.
There's so many moves we can dive into. I don't want to right now. Again, this is pretty much it for me, Frankie. Like, that's all I have for today. We'll dive into the offseason stuff. I swear we will. Probably next week when we do a little bye week show. I think we'll do a live show for you guys, and we'll talk more about like where the hell this team's going from here. Any other final thoughts today, though, from what you've seen and where this team's going to be moving forward this season?
Yeah, man. The last thought is, building a football team, building a winning culture. It's not just about the players. You can get as many all pros as you want. That doesn't lead to wins. You see it in every sport. So I think this team thought that just by bringing in talented players or players that have accolades or have talent would automatically lead to wins. It's a tough game. You see players on other teams like Josh Downs, who probably will never make a Pro Bowl, probably will never be a receiver that we're going to think of as being a top 30 receiver in the NFL. But it's players like that are focused, determined, and to some degree, clutch. They make plays when they need to make plays. That's what it is. And I think this team thought that talent could override those variables, and it clearly hasn't. And I don't think it ever will, especially in New York. That's it.
Well said, Frankie. This is the Gangs All Here Postgame Live Show. I'm Ryan Sampson. He's Frankie Vittorini from U Stadium. The Jets fall to the Colts in a last-second touchdown drive by the Colts, 28-27. Jets are now 3-8 in the season, tied for last in the AFC East. They currently sit at 7th in the NFL draft tankathon, if you go to that website. So
7th in the AFC East,
Yeah, exactly.
You didn't comment on my shirt today, Ryan. I wore the beast mode for you. That's Marshawn Lynch's company. I met Marshawn Lynch's cousin out in Vegas. Guy's a good dude.
That's awesome.
Great dude. I almost met him too, but when he goes in, he has all the security there. But he's like, he pointed at me. I'm like, beast mode. Actually, it's a funny story with beast mode. When I was wearing this in Vegas, I met Trevor Lawrence and T. Higgins, who were with some fine ladies. T. Higgins came up to me. He was like, how long you been working with Marshawn? Out of nowhere, I'm like, bro, too long. I just kind of said it. I don't know. I was kind of lying. It's like, yo, it's my dog, man. I love that guy. I'm like, hey, man, I'm gonna come by the shop tomorrow. They're doing a discount day, and they were doing a discount day. I was gonna be there, but I told him, yeah, I'll be over there.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Frankie, you're the man. Appreciate you as
No,
always.
you're the man. You're the man. Stay up.
Yeah, man. We'll talk to all you fans during the bye week. We'll figure something out. We'll find a day for me and Frankie to come on, and we'll do some off-season talk and where this team goes from here. Who knows? We might get some news maybe after the bye week. We'll go live if the Jets do decide to bench Rodgers the rest of the year and go the Tyrod route. We'll see. There's still a lot to play out. 6 games left in the season. A Jets season from hell. The season is over before Thanksgiving. Woody Johnson is solely responsible for this at the end of the day, and now he's going to see it burn in front of his eyes. Frankie, you're the man. We'll talk to all you later. I'm not going to say it because the Jets don't deserve it. Finger pointing and all.